Hello, and welcome back to Big G's Railroad and Coasters. This is Big G, your host, and today I'm going to be painting a Kato locomotive, or I should say airbrushing a Kato locomotive to weather it up. I've done a little bit of pre-work to it. Let me show you that here in just a second. But hopefully everything will turn out and we'll do a test run afterwards. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned. Alright, we're going to be taking this model here and airbrushing it. As you can see, I've already done a little bit of pre-work to it. I've got the windows taped up some. I've also went in and added some rust spots, which show up pretty decently, but they are fading. Done a black wash over it for the panels to get some oil and grease in there. Also blacked out the radiators, or I should say the vents. And I've got those all done on both sides. I've got the black wash done on both sides as well, along with some on the top here. Going to add the airbrushing in to hopefully get that. Went ahead and did the tape over the windows, and I'm going to leave the lights. We're going to test that and see. One of the number boards came out, but I do have that. I've got it sitting over on the layout. I went ahead and covered the other one up. That tape is very, very small, so that's why it's kind of chunky looking, folded up in a couple spots, but I did my best with that. It's going to be weathered, so a little sloppy is not going to hurt anything, I don't believe. But yeah, we went ahead and did, like I said, I've dirtied it up. I've added some rust spots if I can get it to focus here. Let's see, there we go. Got it washed up a little bit, but I'm going to do some fading. I'm going to also add some dirt, some rust, and we'll see how it goes. Stay tuned. Alright, today we're going to be using this air pump. I usually crank it up to about 25 to 30 psi for the air gun. Here's my airbrush cleaner that I do. And these will be the three colors that I'll be going with, which is a brown, a light gray, and a rust. And that'll be the model number and the airbrush that I'm going to be using, along with those cleaning pins in between. And we'll try to get as much of this action on the camera as possible. Alright, we got everything set up. I'm just going to start adding some paint into the paintbrush. I've got it hooked up. I'm doing about 30 psi whenever it's spraying. So as you're setting up your airbrush, you may wind up setting the air pressure at 35, not realizing it, but what you want to do is, or what I do, is I always check it as I press down and full speed, and it takes it down to about 30 psi. But on the air pressure, when you release, it'll build the pressure up to about 34, 35 psi, or at least on my air pump it does. One of the other things that I like to do is I like to go in and make sure that when I start, I'm only starting with my lighter color. And you definitely want to watch your spray. If it starts acting a little chunky, you may want to go ahead and take the airbrush apart and clean it. That means pulling it, even the needle out sometimes. Sometimes you don't have to go that far. But we're going to see how this session goes. This is the first time I'm actually doing it inside. I usually do this out in the garage, but it's about 40 degrees outside today, and I just don't feel like doing that. Plus it's rainy, so it adds a little bit more of a chill factor to it. Here we go. One of the other things I always do is, especially with one model, I'm going to start with my lighter color, like I said, but I'm only going to add about a drop, maybe 2 drops in. It goes a long way. When I first started, I thought, oh man, I got to fill this joker up. I thought I was going to go through a ton of paint. I spent like 45 minutes going through and like blowing paint everywhere, trying to get rid of all the paint. And then I finally just got bored and poured it out, and I was like, won't do that again. So 1-2 drops for one model. 1 drop will probably do it. So let's start there and see. I'm going to go ahead and add a second drop. Oops, a third one fell. We're probably going to have light gray for a few minutes. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to wipe my cap off over here. Try to get the excess paint off of it so it doesn't have too much drying. Another thing I always do is I try to purge it to make sure that I've got paint coming out. So let's hit. Alright, we've got paint coming out. The excess of the cleaner is done. So the light gray, what I usually use it for is to fade. So now that we've got everything covered up, I know I've got the black wash already on there. The radiators already have the grime on them, but this light gray will lighten everything up. So I may wind up having to go back in and do that over. If so, so be it. Trying to find the flow that I want to use. You don't have to go very heavy on it, as you can tell, or you may not be able to tell. I've got a light gray already starting on the wheels and the fuel tank. Doesn't have to be very heavy. Light trigger work is all you have to do. And let's go ahead and see if we can get the rest of the model to fade up like we want. I'll try to keep my hand out of it so that you get most of it on film, but I'll show you the results as we go. If not, and I'll try to move my hand out as much as I can. Here we go. One thing I will say is the tops of these are going to be more faded. Anywhere that's going to be more sun bleached, you definitely want to go a little heavier with. I've already got it to fade out a little bit on the blue, which is what I was hoping for. As you can tell, very dark blue right here. But over on this side is definitely faded out some, which is great. And that's the effect I'm going for. I don't want to overdo it, but I definitely want to show that it's been sun bleached or aged for quite a while. It's the Bright Future paint scheme, so you know these jokers have been on the road for quite a while because now they're in the Dark Future paint scheme. With that being the case, some of those are even starting to show their age. So what I want to do is I want to show that this one's been in service, that it's actually been ran through the ringer, but it's still been taken care of pretty good. Some of you might also be wondering about why the top of it is not going to be white. I've done some research photos, and some of them are still out there that have the blue tops to them instead of them being painted for cooling effects. So I'm going to keep this one blue instead of going ahead and doing the white tops. I do have a few that have the white tops, so do a little blend, you know, make it look like what you see on the real road. Of course, I do quite a bit of rail fanning, and with that being the case, that helps with the research. But another tool that you can use if you don't have tracks near you is Google. Just put the model that you're in, put the paint scheme that you're in, pull it up, dig through hundreds of photos, see what you like, see how well they're faded or how well they're taken care of. Sometimes you can actually find the real road numbers. When you do that, you can really start to see over the years, you start plugging in that road number, that engine, that paint scheme, and put in the year behind it, and you can kind of watch as it ages along so that you can kind of pick where you want it to be schemed out to. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do a little bit more. Like I said, the tops need to be a little bit more faded, so that's what we're going to work on at the moment, and then I'll flip them all around. We'll do the other side and get going. Another thing I want to kind of focus in on is the walkways and the railings. So I'm going to go and try to make a couple passes like that. Want to do just a little bit more up here on the cab, not too much, but just enough to fade it some. The good thing with light gray is it also, for areas like in Tennessee and Kentucky where there's a lot of limestone, and the ballast is like really gray, it gets a lot of that rock dust look to it, especially to the darker pieces like the dark blues and the blacks. Gives it that nice dusty look, like it's been a nice hot summer day and there's a lot of dust in the air, which if you come down here, you're pretty much in a dust bowl. Alright, we got most of the gray out of the airbrush. Let me try to bring the model a little closer to you so you can kind of see it. Definitely got that fade look to it that I'm looking for without covering the model up. The light gray also takes a lot of the sheen out of the model. As you can see, the radiators still look pretty good. They're still grimy looking, lightly faded, but not too bad at all. Try to get you a full 360 view of it. I'm spinning the whole plate instead of actually doing what it's supposed to, so hopefully it's staying in focus for you. Most of the black wash is still there. A lot of the rust dots that I put on there are still there. So very happy it didn't cover a lot of that up, which as long as you're doing your airbrush right, it shouldn't cover a lot of your work up, and you shouldn't be over spraying it. So don't overdo your airbrushing. A little goes a long way. Like I said, that was like 3.5, 4 drops total. And that I would have been able to do a couple models if I had not been filming and not taking the time out. Now I am going to go ahead and put a little airbrush cleaner in there, and let's go ahead and clean it out some. Same with the airbrush cleaner. A few drops goes a long way, especially if you're wanting to kind of continue that color a little bit. So I'm not going to spray it towards the model. I'm going to spray it on the box itself. You can also use a water as long as it's been distilled. That way it doesn't leave any impurities in your airbrush. One more cleaning of the gray, because I've got a little bit that's clotting up at the bottom where I'm taking a little bit more time with it. Usually airbrush, I'm a lot quicker with it, but for video purposes, having to slow it down a little bit. I'll go ahead and get one of my cleaners too, little pipettes, or not pipette, but pipe cleaner. These definitely come in handy to kind of help loosen some of that paint up. One of the other little tricks with cleaning, cover up the nozzle on the front or the needle. Make a good connection with the front and do a little backwash. Alright, pretty happy with that. It's got a little bit of the gray residue in it, so it's not too much. I'm going to purge it one more time, make sure I've got most of the cleaner out, and we are good. And I think I'm going to go brown first and then add the rest in. Once again, a lot goes a long way. Alright, 1 drop, 2 drops is about all I'm going to use on this. And that cleaner will actually help a little bit. Like I said, I got most of it out, so it's going to kind of keep it kind of loose, but it will help it spray and add kind of a neat effect to it. So let's go ahead and get this locomotive. Now, one thing you want to watch out for, I have a dog in the house and she does like to shed. So there was a little bit of fur, not a whole lot, just one little piece. Got that taken care of. It's off the tray. we should be good to go. Now, I'm going to spray right here just so you can kind of see how much is actually spraying when I'm spraying. Don't know if it'll show up or not, but it's very light, and that's what I'm looking for. It's a dark brown, or it's a brown, not dark brown, not light brown, but when you come through the airbrush with it on your nozzle, as long as you're not pulling it back too far as the trigger goes, you can kind of spray it and it can do multiple things. It can come out looking tan, sandy, brown, just really depends. And then you can kind of build up from there. The more you aim at it and the more you spray, the darker it'll get. So really does the light effects. Same way I'm doing with the light gray and all the other colors that I'll be using. I do want to kind of turn my wheels so that they're nice and straight. So let's go ahead and spray this one up and get it a little dirty. It's definitely adding the feature. It's taking a little bit longer because I think I do have a little too much cleaner in there, but it is laying it on and it is starting to darken up, which is what I'm wanting. So it may take a little bit longer than I anticipated. One thing you want to do is make sure that you're always getting your walkways and you're getting your steps on the locomotive with it, with the browns and the rust, just because that's where you're going to see a lot of that build up at. One of the other areas that you really want to focus in on, especially on a locomotive, and this was through my research, is the nose right here, the flat surface of it. It's really dirty, and they really usually don't keep those clean too well. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of work there. Alright, I got it dirtied up a little bit, kind of what I'm looking for there. I'm going to work on the nose a little bit. Alright, do the plow here. And I added a little bit of that brown to the top. Got it looking pretty good. I'm going to get back here by the fans or the radiators. Gives it that nice dirty look to it, which is what we're going for. Alright, let's work on this other side. Let's get it looking just like the rest of the model. Alright, one drop didn't do it. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more in there and we should be good to go. Alright, there we go. I'm going to kick that wheel out just a little bit. Do kind of a once over. Notice that I need a little bit more color on this back walkway. I'm really liking the way it's turning out. And we've almost got the results that we want, which is nice and grimy. Got a little spot right here that I want to hit up here. I want to hit the back walkway and then maybe go over this walkway one more time. But overall, that is kind of what I was imagining. So, good job. Didn't overdo it. Didn't overkill. Just remember, if you take it a step too far, it's your locomotive. Just kind of blend it the rest of the way and go with it. So, they're all going to age. They're all going to wind up in the boneyard eventually. Alright, overall I'm really liking the way that's coming out. Alright, let's move on to the rest color. I'm going to throw a little cleaner in there just for the brown, not much. Get my pipe cleaners real quick. A little bit of residue in there. I don't want to go through the air gun. Another drop or two and we should be ready to rock and roll. So always remember to recap your bottles. Alright, got about 2 drops of the rust in there. Alright, so we're going to focus on wheels, a little bit on the walkway, and the fuel tanks. That's pretty much, and the plows. That's where we're going. And even hit your steps just a little bit if you want. I kind of like to use the rust in spotting, kind of especially what you would see on the real thing. Hit your knuckles a little bit, not much. Kind of hit that hood space right in front of the windshield here. Run along the top just a little bit. Alright, I'm going to work on the railings a little bit. Alright, overall I think it looks really, really good. Really like the way it turned out. Might hit just a touch of gray to it, and that'll be the light gray, just to tone it down just a hair. I'm gonna try to make sure I've got that rust out real good in there. A little extra cleaner. Pipe cleaner just a little bit. The darker the color, the little extra time it takes to clean too, so. Got a little extra gray in there, but I'm gonna kind of do some test spray with it, just to make sure it's not coming out orange. Alright, I like the way it's spraying. Alright, so we're gonna lighten it up just a little bit because it is a touch dark for me in some spots. The good thing is throwing the light gray over the top of it, it lightens it up a little bit, but it also still retains that color as long as you don't overspray too much, and you can go back to that kind of fade you're looking for. So it's kind of what I did here. Wanted the top to kind of be more of a fade, but I still wanted it to look nasty and dirty and grimy like it is. So don't want to really overdo it too much, so we're going to probably call that pretty good. I'll bring it in closer to the camera so you can kind of see the model. And before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and spray the rest of this gray. So. Alright, airbrush is looking clean. Let's bring that model in and take a look. I'm going to spray one more time just to try to keep all the excess out of there on the cleaner. Very excited. Well, looks good. It does take a little time on the cleaning, but trust me, for the result, it's worth it. Alright, I'm going to spin it if I can hold it just good. Little shaky, but there we go. I think the results speak for themselves. Pretty quick on that. Love the way it turned out. And from start to finish, spraying is about 50 minutes. And that's 50, not 15, but that's also video in it. If we wound up doing that without videoing, I could have probably done that in about 30 minutes, maybe 25. So, very good results. I hope you enjoyed it. I will show you running it here soon. Thanks. Bye. Alright, I got the number boards back in. Got the windows undone. Really like the way it turned out. Let's see it run. As you can see, she is running up and down the tracks. I did have to do a little bit of wheel cleaning, but outside of that, she is running smooth. Took me just a minute, but good to go with it. Of course, I ran it right onto my cleaning pad there. I do have some dirty track, but running like a champ. Alright, that is it, and thank you for watching.